So we've got this next slide about being unique. I would say this was a slide where we weren't sure whether we have it or not, and it may still dive out. We may still get rid of it. We're not sure. And that's to say that these things are always living documents. We're always growing them, changing them, adding a slide here, adding a slide there. So we've got how are we unique? And then they go through why they're only unique. And why is this important? It's because you need to differentiate yourself from everyone else who's working in this space so that the potential funder who's receiving this deck understands why your work is really important. Right now, there's a lot of organizations out there, for example, doing tree planting. What's different about your tree planting program from the other tree planting program? What's different about your social conditions in factories from the other, right? So again, I'm not going to go through the whole detail here, but I think this is still an important slide. If you had to get rid of slides to bring down the number, you might get rid of this one. But anyway, and there is a fair bit of text on this, but we'll see. I think at the moment it's pretty good, and it makes a pretty clear case. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points about why slave-free trade is unique. Not bad. What are we really trying to achieve here? And so here we go, our big audacious goal. So we understand we've taken the person who's receiving this through the problem. They know who we are. They know why we exist, what our founding story is. They now they know what we do. What are we trying to achieve? Our big audacious goal. So if I fund this, if I contribute to slave-free trade, what am I contributing to achieving? So, you've got to inspire people to understand that, you're not just going to ask them for money to make a few cakes, things like this. You're asking them for money to grapple with this global problem. So our end game is human rights to be respected in all workplaces everywhere. Wow, that's pretty cool. But then you give them a short-term goal. 2 years after Libertas launches, that's the rights tech, we will be guaranteeing decent work conditions for 1 million people around the world. That's pretty good. 2 years, touching 1 million people, guaranteeing them decent work conditions. I like that. By 2030, 10 years from now, we will have contributed to the protection of a third of the world's total working population. That's a big goal. Now, question mark here around whether we say we will have contributed to or we will have protected. It was a bit of a debate, and in the end we decided, you know what, we don't know exactly how much our particular technology will be taken up, but what we do know is that by getting it out there, we will inspire others to jump on this band. We want to create a movement. So whether a third of the world's working population is signed up through Libertas or not, probably doesn't matter. What matters is that through creating this movement and getting the technology up and running, a third of the world's working population will now be working in decent conditions, and we will have contributed to that. You might want to change that yourself, but that's the path we went down with this deck. Okay, that's a big goal. It's pretty impressive. Within 10 years, it creates a sense of urgency. 10 years isn't long. Some people might say, "Oh, that's a long time away," but a third of the world's working population working made in freedom in decent conditions, that's going to be a bit of a job. So 10 years isn't bad. It's not too far. It's not too short. I think it's a reasonable goal. Many people have big audacious goals, which you realise it's an absolute moonshot. They will never achieve it. So I think you've got to try and find that middle ground between having something that's not really ambitious versus something that's so ridiculously off the scale that the person receiving it's just like, these people have got no feet on the ground. We want them to understand that our feet are on the ground, our head is dreaming about what we can achieve, but there's process, systems and working ideas that's going to get the two things linked. We can achieve this goal. Yeah. We've got another cool graphic here, made in freedom. What does it mean? So we've got a person. It means fair pay. It means no bullying. I can see the words no child labour, no forced labour, no gender pay gap, fair conditions, workplace privacy. There it is. And it's just a different way of conveying it, right? We initially just had all that text on the slide, and it's too much. But you put it there like that, and it's like, wow, that's funky, and it's got different colours. The words are there. You can read them all. Some are a little bit small, but not so small that you can't read them. Okay, so this is what it means. This is what a third of the world's working population means in 10 years' time. That's pretty inspiring. Now, what's our revenue model, right? So we're getting into the details now about what our revenue model is. How are we going to generate money to do this, right? So we've got an annual membership. I'm not going to go through it all word by word, but there you are. We want the people to understand, if they give us this money, are we going to come back in 2 years' time and ask for some more? And this is a very common thing for foundations. They get requests for money to help startups get going, and they say, so how is this going to kick in and you're going to be financially sustainable and resilient after our funding ends? So we're getting to this place now that we've got a revenue model. This is going to work, right? So going to give you that confidence that we can get going once we can self-fund once we get going. But where are we today? So the human rights framework exists, just being fine-tuned. Libertas Core is under development, depends on volunteers. And until we get to minimum viable product, we can't kickstart that revenue model, right, to scale impact. So we've got to get to minimum viable product. Libertas Core has to be up and running. And with proper resourcing, developing a scalable minimum viable product will take about 6 months. But on the current resourcing, so where we are today, that's going to take about 18 months. It's like, man, that's a long time, right? So we're starting to frame the ask, and here it is. And we've got a nice picture, tree growing, money in the jar. The opportunity, right? It's not the ask. We're not coming with a begging bowl. We're giving you, the investor, an opportunity to do something absolutely impactful, hugely impactful on slavery. Okay, so it's an opportunity. So many people say, well, remember the original side, we need your help. It's a different philosophy, a different approach to say, we've got an opportunity for you to make an impact. Okay, you can see it's not subtle. It's massively different. Oh, we're trying to do something really good. We need your help. No, we've got an opportunity for you to be part of this journey to get a third of the world's working population to be working in decent work conditions. I'm on for that. Okay, so the sooner we reach minimum viable product, the sooner our revenue model kicks in, the sooner we become financially independent. Brilliant. So straight away I'm thinking they've got a system, they've got a scheme, they've got an ambition to be financially independent. Brilliant. They're not going to be coming back to me asking me for more money. Cool. The sooner we achieve impact. That's what I'm interested in. I'm an impact investor. I want to make this happen. The sooner we create a world made in freedom. Simple slide, I think very powerful. Some details here, quite a lot of text on this, but it's easy, it's straightforward. Without funding, the current base income, the situation for workers remains the same. That's the baseline. There's 2 options for funding, getting to minimum viable product. They need $500,000 over 6 months. And it explains what they will do with it. Not in great detail, but we're trying to make it very clear that with the technology but no paid team, scaling up will take time and double the time to reach our first goal. So instead of 1 million workers in 2 years, it'll be 1 million workers in 4 years, right? So this will get us to a point, but it doesn't get us to where we really need to be, which is option 2, where we build the minimum viable product and we have a sustainable, talented organization that's fully launched. Our business model is kicked in. We don't need any more money. So you'll have a fully paid team impacting workers' lives, exploding to scale. Right? Exploding, it's a great word, right? Like we're going for it. We're not here to muck around, right? So they need $2 million within 2 years. I believe, and not everyone believes this, but I believe we do need to put some financials in there. You need to show that you've thought about this. Like these aren't just numbers you've pulled out of the air or pulled out of your armpit or some other part of your body. You've actually thought this through. You've got a model, a financial model, based on your understanding about where you can go with this if you get this funding. Okay, so if we could growth and impact, keywords, with full $2 million funding, we get to that. Here's the numbers. Again, I'm not going to go through it, but that'll get us to our 1 million workers. Our revenue model will kick in and we are launched. So with $2 million funding, Slave Free Trade is up and running and exploding on that path to impacting the lives of a third of the world's workforce. So this makes the case, I think, pretty strongly for $2 million. It shows there's some numbers there. Doesn't have to explain all the numbers, but again, if I'm receiving this pitch deck, I'm going to understand that they've thought about it, that they've done some analysis, and this will prompt me to say, let's have a meeting and let's talk through this so I understand your logic. But the fact that they've shown that those numbers exist shows that they're not just coming, oh, we need a bit of help. No, they're a professional organisation. They've thought about it. They've got a plan. They've got a business plan. They've got a business model. They're grappling with a really important problem. They've got a really thoughtful way of doing it. I'm in a good place. I'm starting to think I'm working with people who know what they're doing. Okay? And I personally feel this slide is so important. We're asking people to give $2 million over an 18-month period. That's a lot of money. So I think this slide on accountability is really important. We need the person receiving this to understand that not only have we got systems in place for accountability, that we take it so seriously that we're going to tell you about it. We're not just going to ask you for the money. We understand that you, as a potential funder, are going to want to know how we spend this and what our systems for accountability are. So I believe this slide is absolutely important, and I seldom see a slide on accountability in the pitch decks that I look at. And it's such a gap. I'm like, well, you're asking me for some money. How are you going to control how you spend this? I get that you're a nice person, but hey, maybe you're a bit useless as a manager. I want to know the systems you have in place to be sure that if I give you this $2 million, or at least part of that, that you've got systems in place to spend it wisely according to the business plan and goals that you've laid out for me. So boom, they have experienced CFO and COO. They've got internal control, budgeting and reporting processes. They annually report to their executive committee, and they've lined up a Big Four audit company to audit their accounts. Now, they're not doing it yet because they're just starting, but they're making that commitment that they're prepared to have a proper professional audit of their accounts. And then they commit to quarterly cost and progress reports to our investors, which will be controlled by our auditor. That's pretty strong. So if you give us the money every quarter, we're going to tell you what we're doing with it and what progress we're making. You're not just going to put it into a big sea and it's going to drift off. No, we're going to be accountable for this. It comes across so much more professionally in presentations where that is made clear than when it's not. It's like, I'm telling you because I understand that accountability is important. We have systems in place. It's important to us. We know it's important to you. This is what we're going to do about it. I'm dealing with professional people. Okay? Last slide. A picture of a woman here with some fruits. It really is another colourful slide. Freedom through transparency, slave-free trade. I love it. I'm there. I get why you say freedom through transparency now. In the first slide deck, the previous slide deck, I had no idea. I didn't get to this point. I just shut the computer. Well, I sort of struggled on, but they'd lost me. Now I get it. I understand what they mean by freedom because they've put that slide there with the principles. We've got the lovely picture of the person with all of the words about what made in freedom means on them. I understand why it's a problem. You made that pretty clear to me in the first series of slides. And again, in this slide, we've got a beautiful light. There's a lot of light in this picture. Transparency, light, slavery in the shadows, in the darkness. So we've had that metaphor running right through the presentation. And then the very last slide is just those sources. We mentioned the sources. Here they are. 77% of businesses, there's the link. Tens of millions of people work in poor human rights conditions. Global Slavery Index, there's the link. So we're not just coming up with numbers just to try and get you excited. We actually have proper resources and data behind it to back it up.